Hey guys, what's up? It's Turtle. Welcome back to GT Sport. We are jumping back into my coding adventure as I attempt to bring performance points back. I know, it's been a while. So anyway, after yesterday's absolute colossal failure, I decided to take a look at my code. And what I found was it was going into the master auto tune, and I am tuning with priority in order of weight, then power, then aero. You can change that priority order if you want, but just for the purpose of getting this tested to see if it will work, that's the priority order that I'm using. I forgot, I'm not sure if I remember to mention that yesterday or not, but that's a thing. So it turns out that when it was setting the weight percent, it was not actually recalculating the weight from that set weight percent. So I went back into the weight percent setter and made that call the weight calculator method so that it would get the new weight percent and use that to recalculate the weight and set the weight. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, so yeah, the actual problem was the weight that was set was remaining at max weight from the original minimum PP calculation that it does before it starts tuning. So what would happen is it would say, okay, set the weight to this number, like minimum weight, in this case, with 1000 pp for the Supras, which is what we're going to do for today. And then it would calculate the horsepower on the assumption that it had maximum weight. And it would get this ridiculous number and be like, well, we need like 218% power, but I can only do like 157 or whatever the max is for this car. Or 177, sorry. And so that's what we're going to use, and that's wrong. So now we have something that looks a little different. So in a moment I am going to tune the cars, and while you can't load the Ghost in VR, I'm going to do the first laps with these cars in VR just for entertainment purposes, and then we'll see what happens from there. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to open a new sheet because I just want to keep the stock sheet. I want to keep a stock sheet intact. So this time I'm going to just tune. Well, you know, let's go in here. First things first, turn off traction control since I forgot to do that yesterday with the super formula. Not that it mattered. Alright. And this first tune here is going to be at 998 pp, right, because it can't quite hit 1000 perfectly dead on, and this happened in GT5 and GT6, right? You would try to tune for a certain pp, and sometimes you'd be off by 2 points or something like that. So we're going to go with 153% power. And weight at 84%. And I think we're gonna run a racing hard tire. You know, even though it's a road car and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to run a racing tire on a road car, because I'm testing it against race cars, I want to keep things even as much as possible. So same tire, same top speed on the transmission as well. And we'll go with that. Then on the Group 4 car, again, a new tuning sheet, traction control turned off. This one, does in fact reach 1000 pp. And it will also be interesting to see how 2 points make a difference, if any noticeable difference. Okay, power at 68%, which means I need to level up that. Good thing I have plenty of mileage points. I have nothing else better to do with them than to use them all on this project. So 68% power, 68% weight. So while I am, buffing the weight, there's a huge power decrease here. And I've done the calculation, and the power to weight ratio isn't all that different. So let's see here, we have 0.18 horsepower per pound for the Road Supra and 0.13 horsepower per pound for the Group 4 Supra. So while this does have, less horsepower per pound overall, it still has downforce. And that will also have to be reduced to quite a low setting, actually, to still be even, according to these calculations. And of course, we went to keep the transmission as even as possible. And then lastly, we have the Group 3 Supra, which also reaches 1000 pp. I want to get a default sheet, turn off the traction control. So we have 1000 pp. And for this tune, I neglected to check the power to weight ratio, but we're going to have some faith in the code today and hope things work out much better than yesterday. So 75 on the power, so minimum power weight needs to be increased to 112%. So again, as I said before, I'm prioritizing a weight reduction in the tune, and as you can see, that was not possible. So right, it first sets the minimum PP, which is max weight, minimum power, and then does the weight calculation, and that came out to 112, and then it had to leave the power alone at minimum power for this to be possible. And now the downforce also takes a bit of a reduction here. So 311, no, quite a reduction actually, and 711, I believe. Yep, 711. Okay, and once again we come into the transmission and make sure we are as even as possible using just the top speed auto set, because you don't want to mess with the gears individually. And now let's actually take a look at the graphs here. So we have a lot of this car is depending on its max speed to make up for its lack in cornering. And you can see only a 2.7 there, and that's fine. And then we got more cornering, more stability on the Group 3 car, a lot less back speed. Acceleration is a little less as well, right? We got less horsepower, more weight. This car is, as before, kind of sort of middle ground, but it's got less weight, but also less horsepower. And we can see here in this graph, 5.4, 4.7. So about the same, according to the graph. I'm not sure if that helped, but I never really trust the accuracy of that thing. 3.7 and 6.3. So slightly less in the cornering and stability. And well, the only real way to test this is to take this to a track. So that's what we are going to do. And as I mentioned before, for the purpose of entertainment, I'm going to do my first laps with these cars in VR, and we'll see what kind of lap times I get. And then if I see anything strange, I'll bring it back to regular time trial mode and see what the ghosts are doing. Okay, so I'll see you once I get the headset on. Alright, so here we are at Suzuka we are. Now you'll notice his suspension on the Road Supra is kind of inappropriate for this tire. It's a little loose. So we're going to take that into consideration if the Supra is a little bit slow compared to the other Supra and the other Supra. I'm not sure exactly where I should be braking here. So I'm going to take a little bit of time, get warmed up with the car, and I'll get back to you once I have the lap. Not perfect, but I'm going to work with this. So we have our lap. Thanks, phone. Okay, let's see what we got. 2092. So about the same as what I got last time. Now, I say last time because this is my second attempt at this lap, but I forgot to save the best lap replay, and even though I can't load a ghost in this mode for whatever reason, I'm still going to save the best lap replay. Now it's a little bit faster actually, so that I have something to compare to if I have to back out and go to regular arcade mode. Alright, so now we are going to switch to the Group 4 car, and we'll see how this goes. Okay. So, breaking into these chicanes, so 150 is too much, 100 isn't enough. So I want to break somewhere between. like a final lap for qualifying. We're going to stay on the line, because that's what they did with the other Supra. Alright, so the other Supra was still a tad faster. As you can see, about almost 2 seconds faster. But still, you know, compared to yesterday, this is a heck of a lot better. So is it perfectly balanced? No, not quite. And, well, the PP wasn't perfectly balanced back in GT5 and GT6. Right, there was always at least one car that kind of, well, broke lobbies that were set for just a PP. So, you know, you might remember Lotus Elise, if with aero parts, if you ran in like 400 PP or 450, you might remember Suzuki GSX R4 or whatever it's called. You might remember Chaparral 2J for 600 PP, or the Tommy Kyra ZZ2 at that level. So, and they would have a significant advantage. And the way you deal with broken cars like that is you put a cap on the PP, the power, and the weight all combined, and then it kind of evens out a little closer. So I'm anticipating that I should have something similar when comparing, you know, two-wheel drive cars and all-wheel drive cars. Alright, so let's get into the final test, the Group 3 car. The display on the wheel so I can see what the lap time is once I finish. So like with the Group 4, plenty of grip to work with, but I'm also heavier, so the grip feels kind of not almost the same, but I also have more power, I think. So the result should be interesting. Additional downforce should help as well. Before I do not have any readout of my speed. Oh, I do. It's just very small. I thought R might be possible with just a lift. It's hard to tell. So how do we look for lap times here? 2:08, I guess? Yeah, I think we can stop now. Alright, so that lap wasn't too bad. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't too bad. So we're actually, you know, not too far off here. And I kind of predicted that, oh no, I didn't really predict. We were concerned, me and my friend, that about the Group 4 car, what might happen with that, with it having both the power reduced and a weight buff, or a weight reduction. And I'm going to say I'm pleased with this result, because this is actually within half a second of the road car. Now the Group 4 car didn't do quite as well. And I expect that it would perform better perhaps on twistier circuits. But I'm quite happy with this, what we have so far. The road car and the Group 3 car, you know, the widest apart, you know, that you would expect, at least in terms of base stats. Let me get my screen back to center. In terms of base stats, they're the widest apart, and yet they performed the closest in this test, whereas the Group 4 car, the one that was supposed to be the middle ground, well, it's no longer in the middle. Alright, so that's it for the testing today. So what's next? When I tuned everything to the same PP, everything performed, you know, the Group 4 was kind of lagging behind, but again, I feel like it'll do much better on a twistier circuit. And remember, there is going to be variation. There was variation in PP tunes back in GT5 and GT6. So some variation like that, even a whole second or two, should be expected, I believe. Though smaller variation is preferred. So I feel like my code is doing pretty well as it is. And the next step will be to expand from where I'm at now. So right now, as I said before, it's just some Java code thrown up in Eclipse. And nothing that can be distributed to other people or anything like that. It's not in that sort of state yet. And the ultimate goal is to end with a mobile app, cross-platform preferably compatible with both Android and iOS, but I don't have any Mac products, so not sure if I'll be able to make that work entirely. But my plan to go from here is I'm going to have to get some other assets, and I'm going to work on porting the code over to Xamarin, and see what happens from there. I'll need to make a GUI for it to work on a touchscreen device instead of all this, you know, hard code in a debug program, and see what happens. Alright, so that's going to do it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.